$1.7 billion at 33 years old. Let me see, I'm 24, so 33, carry the 5. Anyway, $1.7 billion being your net worth at 33 years old doesn't sound too shabby. According to Forbes estimates, Rihanna Fenty, also known to the world as Rihanna, and it's Rihanna, okay? Put some respect on the "ri" and the "na." It's not Rihanna. Okay, let's reclaim our time. It's Rihanna. Is the wealthiest female musician in the world. But of course, we all know it isn't the music that made her wealthy. The bulk of her fortune, which is an estimated $1.4 billion, comes from the value of Fenty Beauty. Much of the rest lies in her stake in her lingerie company, Savage X Fenty, which is worth an estimated $270 million, and then her earnings from her career as a chart-topping musician and actress. So, are we going to eat Rihanna when the class wars happen? Because I don't want to. I might have to help sis hide. Okay, listen. Hear me out. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with the time when Rihanna had to declare bankruptcy. And I know that, when we hear that celebrities have done this, most of the time, it's just because they're trying to hide money and do things that way. But for Rihanna, that wasn't the case at all. Rihanna actually ended up nearly bankrupt in 2009. So, okay, when I say these numbers, I know you're going to be like, that's bankrupt. But listen, yes, it is bankrupt in context to the amount of money she was earning at the time and what she should have been given. Okay, so in the beginning of 2009, Rihanna had claimed that she had $11 million liquid. So she had $11 million in cash. But by the end of that year, she was left with $2 million. And it wasn't because she was spending a bunch of money on things that didn't matter. It was because people were not doing right by her. So, like I said, while $2 million probably sounds like a lot of money for most of us, the problem is that Rihanna had purchased a house priced between $7 and $7.5 million that year, which her accountant, was like, that's a fair price. That makes money. That's fine. Rihanna ultimately ended up having to sell that property for a $2 million loss. Rihanna also claims that her 2009 Last Girl on Earth tour was losing money instead of earning her money, and her accountant had failed to notify her of these losses. Now, in 2012, Rihanna filed a lawsuit against this accounting firm, Burden LLP, claiming gross mismanagement. Rihanna also said that she had hired Burden LLP in 2005 when she was only 16 years old and first launching her music career. Yes, I know it's hashtag eat the rich, and, let's kind of talk about why the politics of becoming a billionaire are really sticky, icky, because, unless y'all can point me in the direction of one who has done it, there truly is no complete ethical way to become a billionaire. And that's just the way it is right now. Rihanna has done, I think, most of what she can to make her money in the most ethical of ways possible. We all know the kind of labor that goes into producing goods, especially goods such as the Savage X Fenty clothing, that makes it the prices that it is today. And people still complain about those prices, but it's like, trust me, y'all, if y'all wanted it to be cheaper, y'all would be extremely more uncomfortable than you are now about how those goods are being mass produced. But I want to get back to this Rihanna claiming bankruptcy or nearly having to claim bankruptcy in 2009. So let's do the math. So in 2005, when she was 16, she hired this accounting firm. So 2009 is 4 years later. 17, 18, 19, 20. So when Rihanna was 20, going on 21 years old, at the beginning of that year, she had $11 million. And by the end, she only had $2 million. there's something that happens to women, and let's be honest, really, truly all musicians and really all celebrities, when you start earning a certain amount of money, people are absolutely going to want to try to take advantage of you. And Rihanna was an extremely young person. She was a teenager when she was making this kind of money. And people were taking advantage of her. They were grossly mismanaging her. They were lying to her, and they were stealing from her. People had her believing, right, with forged documentation that she was making more money than she was. So she was spending money that she did not actually have, unbeknownst to her. So in these initial documents, right, in her filings, Rihanna also alleged that her accountants took above the standard 22% commission from her. So the accounting firm, to this day, is maintaining its innocence, stating that Rihanna owed, it's Rihanna's own financial action or inaction, or the action of others working for her that caused her to lose millions and millions of dollars. Now, here's the thing. What do y'all expect a 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old immigrant, right, who does not come from that sort of financial background to do when you start throwing millions of dollars at them and ask them to manage it themselves? Well, what they're going to do is they're going to hire who they believe are reputable people to help them manage that money. Because what do y'all always tell us? Y'all always tell us that we should ask for help, right? She's a young black woman. She's a teenager. She's a young black woman, and she's a teenager. And you always ask us to ask for help, to reach out, to look laterally. She hired the same people that were working for, pretty much everyone else around her, and she believed they are going to help me, and they did not help her. They did not help her, right? But it didn't take long. It didn't take long for Rihanna to get herself back together, because about 5 years later, Rihanna was worth about $43 million, right? So I wanted to give us all that context because I think it's important. Trust me, we're gonna get into the capitalism. We're gonna get into the black capitalism, because black capitalism really would not save us. But I wanted to give you all that context because you have to understand where Rihanna's drive is also coming from, right? Of course, we know, she was an immigrant. She was to provide for her family. She has this talent, this, that, and the third, of course. But she also experienced an extreme betrayal, one that almost financially ruined her. Rihanna was at that crossroads, right, to use that kind of language, because it was that deep. She was at that crossroads where she could have easily lost the rest of the money that she had, one, through litigation and having to go to court back and forth, right? Or, right, she could have invested her money in the wrong things and also lost it that way. Like, there were so many avenues, and Rihanna had to buckle down, put out more music, when she honestly in 2009 wanted to stop putting out music, because this was like, I'm being worked like a mule and I'm not earning the money. Because now that I'm sitting down looking at my, tours and what I'm selling and what I'm making, it's not working anymore. Like, it's not affording my lifestyle, but it's the lifestyle you all led me to believe. I wasn't living this fast and loose lifestyle, frivolously. I was living it because y'all were telling me I had the money to do so. If I had known that I didn't really have the $1 million to spend, I wouldn't have spent the $1 million, right? And you can't really fault her. If someone tells you that you have access to $11 million cash, you're going to stop it. Y'all are lying if y'all going to sit here and be like, I wouldn't have spent it. I would have done this, that, and the third. You would have done this, that, and the third after spending a good meal or two. And that's fine. Enjoy your fun. You're young. But the problem with that was they were telling Rihanna this, but what she had available in cash and liquid, she thought was like, coming from a reserve. It wasn't coming from a reserve. It was all she had, because the rest of it was tied up in everybody else's pockets, and she did not know that. But let's talk about black capitalism and womanism, and if we're gonna eat Rihanna when the class wars happen. So here's the thing: when Rihanna Well, Rihanna didn't announce it. When Forbes announced that Rihanna made a Billy, a lot of people were split down the middle. You were either happy, rejoicing, here for it, celebrating it. Yes, we love it. We love to see these success stories. Or you were like, Black capitalism will not save us. There's no ethical way to be a billionaire. And Rihanna needs to give away 2 tons of her wealth. Okay? Right. So, yes, we are going to have to ask ourselves, is becoming a billionaire truly a womanist act? Right? Does Rihanna becoming a billionaire push us forward in obtaining more equity for ourselves, or is it dividing us apart even further? Well, I've been mentioning it since the start of this video. What does it take to become a billionaire? You're going to have to step on some toes, and some people are going to have to be put in compromising positions, maybe even ones that financially ruin them, in order for you to gain that kind of wealth. Now, understand that being a billionaire doesn't mean Rihanna has $1 billion in her bank account, but it means her net worth. It means all of her combined assets equate to $1.7 billion. And she's nowhere near being one of the richest people in the world who are worth, once again, have assets equating to hundreds of billions of dollars. But also understand that those people who are worth hundreds of billions of dollars absolutely do have access to at least $1 billion liquid. Just want to make that clear. So regardless of all that, having $1 billion is still like an extreme amount of wealth. Like, that's crazy. Like, having assets that are worth $1 billion, even having access to, like, that's crazy. So, you know, I felt like Rihanna had made it. I will admit that I was someone who celebrated the news of Rihanna reaching billionaire status in her assets. I did. Now, where we need to take issue, or maybe not where we need to take issue, but where we need to be examining it is when we start to use language like, okay, Rihanna's a self-made billionaire, right? Because when Kylie was announced to be right? They announced Kylie was a billionaire or millionaire. I'm sorry, I don't keep up. But whatever. When they announced Kylie had made some money, they used self-made. And the thing about it is, nobody is a self-made anything. Like, nobody is a self-made anything. If you've made $30,000 this year and you're very proud of that, and that's 10 times more than you made the year before, you're not a self-made, you know what I'm saying? You didn't do that by yourself. Yes, your hard work and your dedication and your savvy and your know-how and your willingness to show up every day brought you to that point, but somebody had to either hire you for that job, or somebody either had to trust you enough to be your client. Like, you did not do this by yourself. Even if you made a product for sale, which is what Rihanna has done, and even if you've made a product for sale, people had to help you make that product. Like, nobody is ever doing anything by themselves on this plane. Nobody has, ever. I don't care. Even if you built a house literally by yourself, like put the whole house together, hey, guess what? The seed that grew in the ground, that planted that tree, that gave you the lumber, helped you. The person that made the wrench that you used helped you. The person that made the saw helped you. You didn't do any of that by yourself because you did not make every single tool by hand. Now, did you? No. So none of us are ever doing anything by ourselves, no matter how good it feels to say that. So, with that being said, no, Rihanna is not a self-made billionaire. And also, no, she didn't really make $1 billion. You can't really, the way that money works and the way that capitalism works, you can't, once we get beyond $1 million, or maybe once we get, let me think about my studies. Once we get like beyond $100 million, really, you're no longer making that money. You're taking that money. You're taking that money because there's no ethical way. There's no ethical way to start grossing amounts of money like that. Okay. So I'm not trying to make a villain out of Rihanna or people who make $1 billion anyway. I want to stop. I want to stop before I move on and say something. We are all participating in capitalism, right? I'm an American. I live in America. I am participating in capitalism every day. My critique of capitalism is happening because I see the potential of what not only America, but truly what the rest of this world can be, could be, and should be. And I do think one day will be, once we truly dismantle the system of capitalism. The free market, you could argue, maybe was good intentioned, like it was a good intentioned movement, but it's the lack of regularization that has led us to getting people like a Jeff Bezos, honestly, like a Jeff Bezos. No, but it's the reason why things like Amazon and Facebook are able to purchase Whole Foods and Walmart. You know what I mean? And take control of entire markets and become conglomerates that Bill Gates, again, that are able to literally control and manipulate the market to such an extent that depending on how Bill Gates wakes up, or depending on how Jeff Bezos wakes up, it may decide how the rest of us are gonna get paid. And that's kind of scary. I don't want Mark Zuckerberg's mood to be deciding what I'm allowed to do or not do on the internet. That's kind of scary. That's kind of scary to me. But when we start to edify billionaires, worship them, deify them, defend them, and what I'm doing today is I'm not defending Rihanna's becoming a billionaire. I'm just exploring what that all means for us, and even more so what that all means for us as Black women and those who consider themselves womanist. But it's a slippery slope, because even though I initially was celebrating, I wasn't deifying. I wasn't glorifying. I wasn't edifying. I wasn't worshiping. Right? Wealth accumulation in this way is always going to be at the disadvantages of other people. There's no other way to say it. There's no other way to say it. Rihanna became a billionaire, and that's cool, and that's sweet, and that's awesome. But she didn't become a billionaire by baking cupcakes out of her kitchen, right? And no, people did have to be exploited. Yes, because Rihanna is who she is, we have seen her publicly take steps to make sure that exploitation is, I guess, as minimized as possible, but the exploitation is there nonetheless. It's very difficult to erase the exploitation or to make it cease to exist, because also Rihanna cannot have her hands in every single aspect of what it is that's earning her money. So Rihanna doesn't know what it's like for the people in the factories actually making Savage X Fenty lingerie, right? She doesn't actually know the conditions those people are in. She doesn't really know what their hourly wages are. She doesn't know what their salaries are. She doesn't know what their lives are. And beyond that, she doesn't know what the lives are for the people that make the fabric for Savage X Fenty. She doesn't know what it's like for the people that go out and harvest the materials that are used to even make the fabric. You see how many chains down the line we have to go just to get a bra? And Rihanna doesn't know what those processes actually look like and what that all means for those people. But no matter how you slice the cake, exploitation is happening each and every step of the way. How much or how little, I mean, that's apples and oranges, that's tomatoes. Exploitation is still exploitation, whether it's a little bit or a lot of it. It's exploitation nonetheless. So, as wonderful as it felt for a moment to be like, oh, it's possible. It's possible to become a billionaire by seeing Rihanna becoming a billionaire. I had to pause and ask myself, wait a minute, why do I even want to become a billionaire? Why do I even want to become a millionaire? Why do I want to accumulate and hoard wealth in that way? What is it about that is making me feel good? Because at the end of the day, this pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps farce, it needs to be let go of. It's imperative that we let go of it, Black people, because there aren't enough bootstraps in the world for us to pull ourselves up from that can catch us up to 500, 700 years of economic privilege that white people had in America. Because it's not non-Black, it's white. Now, I can get into non-Black economic privilege because we need to talk about it. To this day, a lot of things are still not technically illegal to do to Black folks, but they are illegal to do to those who are non-Black. All right. Other folks have gotten reparations, but what about Black folks? Okay, we're gonna focus on what we all kind of seem to know the most about. That's white and Black, and also because that's the one that most directly affects my life. So, there's we couldn't pull ourselves by the we could not pull ourselves up by the bootstraps enough to catch up to what enslavement, what drug trade did for white people in America, because it happened 400, 500 years before we could ever start moving ourselves, getting that upward mobility. And I know people love to use, our drop in the bucket examples of Black wealth and Black capitalism. They love to be like, if all of us just had this mentality, message, if all of us just had this mentality, we all would have been millionaires. My Black brother, my Black sister, we all could have been. No, we could not have been. And you want to know why? Because the warfare that is going on in the minds of Black Americans is so pervasive that some of us hate ourselves. So how do we expect ourselves to create these flourishing communities of economic superpower if some of us can't even stand the fact that we're Black? We are going to have to overcome that before we can really begin to have the conversations of, okay, now group economics. And although I talk about group economics a lot for Black folks because it has done a wondrous of things for us many and many times, we also know that each and every time we strive for that, we do get attacked from all sides. And I'm really tired of Black folks being on the defense. I would love for us to get on the offense a little bit more. I really would. Which is why I do have these conflicted and conflated feelings about Rihanna and other Black people becoming billionaires, because a part of me is like, this is a horrible, horrible thing. Because it's really not good for us as a society. It is a horrible, horrible thing. But another part of me is like, well, maybe these new rich Blacks will, maybe follow more in line with what people were doing in the 20s and 30s. Pull a page out of Madam C.J. Walker in that book and use their money to build entire communities. But I don't know. It doesn't look like. I don't know though. Never seen the bear. I don't know though. Maybe. But how did Rihanna become a billionaire, right? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. So to start, I mentioned earlier, like, we all know that Fenty has pretty much paved the way for Rihanna's wealth. Fenty and all the things that fall under the house of Fenty. Vogue claims that Fenty Beauty changed the state of play in the industry. Direct quote, "From unrealistic beauty ideas to the blatant lack of representation reflected in campaigns and product offerings, the beauty industry's relationship with diversity was problematic at best. The messaging essentially that if you don't fit in an age-old Eurocentric ideal of beauty, you are not welcome, was the white elephant in the room of a tone-deaf business. Fenty Beauty didn't just address this, it blew the conversation wide open. Citing the brand's opening gambit of a 40-strong foundation range, Vogue contends that Fenty has changed the game. Now, beauty brands have to be inclusive. But beyond this, it claims that Fenty did something deeper. That is, make darker-skinned women feel seen by the industry. And we also saw this with Fenty's sister brand, Savage X Fenty, with its use of plus-size models to create gender-neutral products to catering to consumers of all ages. I would like to also add here that Fenty, Savage X Fenty, has even gone well and above and beyond what we most see. I'm not going to sit here and say it's perfect, but what they have, differently abled bodies. We're seeing full-sized men, like full-bodied, full-figured men. That is, yes, women, we haven't gotten plus-size representation the way that we need to, but men, like true professional modeling, it's like non-existent if you're a plus-size man. So that's something I think is really amazing. Here's the thing. Appealing to markets that are undervalued and appealing to markets that traditionally have been believed to not spend the money and are not worth it is always going to make you the money. You find a hole, you fill it. That's how you start to accumulate wealth in this way. Who's not being served? I'm going to serve them, even if they don't look anything like me. For the most part, the models that Rihanna uses and pushes to the forefront don't look nothing like Rihanna, right? They're not her body type. They're not her skin tone. They don't have her features. Rihanna, although she is, this is what I want to say. Rihanna is not the face of any of her brands. She's truly not. She's Rihanna, so we know it's Rihanna's, right? But Rihanna has never made herself the face of her brands. Rihanna just includes herself. Rihanna is included in the branding, but she is not the branding, which I think, again, has helped her tremendously in amassing this wealth too, because to the consumer, it's never felt like, I am buying Rihanna's whatever, so I can look like Rihanna. No, I am buying something Rihanna has made. And I can look like whomever looks the most like me in the marketing and in the messaging. That's smart. I just want to add that right there. To creating gender-neutral products, to catering to consumers of all ages, Savage X Fenty seems to be following in Fenty Beauty's footsteps, governed by the same ethos of inclusivity. But that's where the good part ends. So when it said, that you don't make a billion, you take it, that this is what's meant. The amount of wealth accumulation is only possible through unethical labor practices. Which, yes, Rihanna's brands are guilty of. And that's why I wanted to also talk about, earlier on before I really got into this part and start talking about how Fenty Beauty and things that are under the house of Fenty Beauty are not ethical. I wanted to talk about, although all this may be true, I think sometimes, I'm not going to say we put the onus on the wrong parties here, but I also think that because most of us haven't actually been in these situations, we overlook what it really means to be in these kind of positions. Now, I'm not saying that we need to now say Rihanna is faultless or blameless, because no, these are her brands. And so it would be great if sis did sit down and take a deep dive into what it all takes to actually produce the goods that she's selling and to do even more to make it more ethical. Can the products that she produces ever be 100% ethically made and sourced? I don't know. But could they be more ethically made and sourced? Absolutely. Like, they absolutely could be more ethically made and sourced. Fenty Beauty is a cruelty-free brand. It offers vegan products, not tested on animals, etc., etc., etc. This is according to Ethical Elephant. But with all that being said, the brand itself isn't entirely vegan. And honestly, I mean, like, we shouldn't be making are these products vegan like the bar for if something is good and ethical, because vegan goods aren't as ethical as y'all think either. Vegan leather is one of the most harmful materials to the planet. Vegan leather is so terrible. It doesn't biodegrade. It's horrible, right? But vegan leather is something that someone thinks that when purchasing it, they are being more ethical and supporting a more ethical trade, a more ethical product, a more ethical good, a more sustainable way of getting that look, when you're not, right? Being a vegan is being touted as being the most ethical thing someone can do. I mean, if you want to reach the zenith of being an ethical person, you're a vegan. You're a vegan. But, like, do we want to talk about what it takes to get your vegetables and your tofu? And your Beyond Meat? Do you want to talk about it? Because you want to talk about it, some of the most unethical and damning and dangerous and harmful things are going on to get you your quinoa salad in Whole Foods every day. To get you those bell peppers and oyster mushrooms you so love. Everything under a capitalist society is going to have its fair share of unethical behaviors and practices. That is the nature of capitalism, because capitalism itself is unethical. Once we sit with that and accept it and breathe through it, we will all be able to relax a little bit more and take these critiques not so much to heart, but we'll be able to take these critiques and start to apply them in our lives best we can. You know, I've always said, I don't think I'll ever be a vegan, but I'm absolutely here for becoming more of a plant-based person. I would absolutely love to see the production of meat decrease. I would. I don't know anything about the methane gas levels of farts from cows, but I would love to see us eating less meat just because it's better for the body anyway. But I don't care. Like, if you're wearing real leather or fake leather, I don't really care. At the end of the day, somebody's going to be wearing leather out there, right? And I also think there is a practical way to go about all of our modes of eating and wearing clothing and building homes and powering our homes and so on and so on and so on. I think there are sustainable ways that we can do that. I told y'all, I don't really do the binary thinking. I don't think it has to be this or that. It's vegan or it's meat eater. And if you're vegan, you're better. And if you're meat eater, you're horrible and you're contributing to terrible, terrible practices. Veganism is just as unethical in what it takes to get you all that you love so much to help you be a vegan as it is to be somebody who eats steaks. Capitalism, it's unethical. There's nothing ethical about really being a capitalist, yet we all are, aren't we? But it's only because we are absolutely forced into these societal practices. How we get out of the societal practices, I don't know. That's another video for another day. So much of what's used in Fenty Beauty's products is mica. Mica is one of the biggest controversies in ethical makeup. A lot has been written about the production of mica, where it comes from, and how it's kind of, damn near necessary in a makeup product if you're going to get that shine and that luster. But it's always been associated with extremely dangerous mining practices and child labor. So Fenty Beauty's policy on mica is that they are making every effort to ensure the traceability and transparency of their supply chains. Okay. Fenty Beauty also states, unless the company discloses its mica mining policy, they have no way of knowing whether its mica is ethically sourced without child or forced labor. So right there, sweetheart, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's that slippery slope. Oh, Fenty Beauty is cruelty-free. The products are vegan. It's so great. Woo! That all may be true. Products are cruelty-free. Products are not tested on animals. Products are vegan. Most of their products, I think, actually do biodegrade, and like they are eventually changing their packaging to more sustainable and reusable packaging, or packaging that at least when thrown out isn't going to like sit in a landfill, and that's great. But mica's in almost every single thing that they produce, and child labor is absolutely necessary to the production of mica. And when I say absolutely necessary, that's not me agreeing with it. I'm just saying that's how mica gets produced, because child labor is the cheapest form of labor people can find. And I don't think there's a single mica mine that isn't using forced child labor. Now, again, Fenty can very well be doing their part, Fenty Beauty, to make sure that the mica that they're using has been ethically sourced. But here's the thing. They can't ever know that 100%, no matter what the mines are telling them. They can't ever know that 100% unless Fenty Beauty is literally sending a representative down there to oversee the production of mica being used in Fenty Beauty products. And on top of that, by sending a representative, they are being transparent, and that representative is being transparent about all that they see and taking pictures, and there's 24-hour monitoring of the mine. But you see, that costs money. Now, it's not like Fenty Beauty doesn't have the money to do that, but why would we do that? Step one, to becoming a billionaire. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta cut costs somewhere. So Fenty Beauty doesn't have its own mica mine, right? They don't own any of the mines that are producing mica for them. So Fenty Beauty can never 100% know if the mica that they are putting in their products was not made with child labor. And that means you, the consumer, can absolutely never, ever know 100% that the products that you're purchasing from Fenty Beauty have not been made by child labor. Now, it might not be children in factories putting your lipsticks together, but there are children in mines making sure that your lipstick has the material that makes it shiny. Okay. All right. Now, Savage X Fenty. Savage X Fenty, according to Impactful Ninja's investigation on the brand, instead of what you'd expect to find from an ethical brand, such as a list of sustainable suppliers, partnerships with fair trade organizations, charitable donations, there's actually no indication of any sort of attempt to be sustainable. So on the Savage X Fenty website, you will find statements about confidence, inclusivity, fearlessness, and expressing yourself. That's great, and that's like beautiful, but like, who the fuck is making the clothes? Like, how are my panties getting made? Right? Like, who's making my panties? You don't know. You can't really ever know who's making your panties. And Savage X Fenty is not going to tell you. Anytime a brand or company isn't forthcoming about its production practices, it means that there probably are some shady or less than favorable things taking place to produce those goods. So, what do we do from here, right? Where do we go from here? Well, we sip some more of our coffee because I need it. And we ask ourselves, what fight do we want to fight right now? And where should our focuses be? And I'm absolutely not trying to attempt to answer that question right now, but Rihanna becoming a billionaire is not something I believe you should be 100% upset about, but it also isn't something you should be 100% happy about. And I also don't think the argument of, white billionaires don't get the same kind of pushback. They absolutely do get the same kind of pushback. It's just that nothing really gets done about it. And nothing get done to Rihanna either. I mean, once you have a certain amount of money, you have a certain amount of money, and you kind of can do whatever you feel like doing and move about the world however you would like to do so. Now, there are other brands, right, that have, through dubious language, claim to be sustainable and great. And, so Rihanna's Savage X Fenty and Rihanna's Fenty Beauty are not the only freaking, brands that are horrible, that are doing terrible things, right? Like, that's not true. There's tons of people doing it. Look at Amazon. But bottom line is, becoming a billionaire isn't a womanist action. It's not a feminist action. But who's to really say, right? Some of our famed feminist and womanist leaders are landlords. All right, they own property and they rent it out. They post eviction notices. All right. Oh, is that feminist? Is that womanist? No, it's not. Not in theory, and certainly not in practice. So does that mean we need to expand our definitions of womanism and feminism? Or does it mean that we need to close in on them even more? Billionaires do exploit people. They themselves, Rihanna herself personally is not sitting there, doctoring up people's pay and stealing and whatever. We know, because the same way that Jeff Bezos has no idea what's happening from the day-to-day actions at Amazon, he does not know. He is not involved. He is not involved. It's the same way that Rihanna is not involved in every single day-to-day action of each level of the supply chain, right, that makes up Savage X Fenty and Fenty Beauty. She's not involved. So she doesn't know. And that's not an excuse, but I'm just saying, when you have a blind spot, you have a blind spot. And when you have many blind spots, you get these kind of issues. The glorification of wealth is just the glorification of wealth. Rihanna becoming a billionaire has not advanced Black people as a whole. Rihanna becoming a billionaire has not advanced Barbados as society as a whole. She's an individual. And I think sometimes we take the individualism and try to apply that to the collectivist mindset a little too often. The success of the individual, truthfully, is not the success of the collective. It is the individual who has to extend their success to the collective to make it so. I can't sit here and say Rihanna has extended the success of herself to the collective. But I only can't say that because I haven't really done the research on it. Now, I do know that Rihanna has, charitable practices. I know she has her own charity. I know she donates tons of money anonymously and not anonymously. We get a video, it seems like every couple of weeks or months on Twitter that circulates that shows Rihanna giving people money on the street or stopping to speak to fans and pay for their dinner or whatever. So, Rihanna seems to be a very charitable, pretty much good-natured person in general from what we've seen, from what her public image is. That is great. It does not take away from the fact that both of her brands that have amassed her the wealth that she has, right, given her assets worth $1.7 billion and growing, partake in exploitative practices and child labor and things that if they were more public to us would probably have us not supporting that much. Now, have I purchased some Fenty Beauty? Actually, I haven't. Oops. I've actually never bought any Fenty Beauty or Savage X Fenty. I haven't purchased anything. Always supported my sister with a retweet and a like, and a repost, but I've never purchased. And it's not that I've never purchased because of I've known this stuff. I mean, I have, but I've just never purchased because it doesn't appeal to me. One, I really don't wear makeup, so it's like, what was I gonna buy? A lip gloss? No, I couldn't justify spending money on lip gloss. I also know I wouldn't use. And then Savage X Fenty is just, I don't wear that kind of stuff, so it didn't make sense. So that's kind of why I've never done that. I've never done that, but. Ultimately, I would like us to free ourselves from the shackle of capitalism. Does feminism have to be about liberating all of us from capitalistic, heteropatriarchal, and white supremacist systems? Yes. But also, this is why I prefer to refer to myself as a womanist and not a feminist. I don't think feminism benefits the Black woman. That's me. That's my thoughts. That's my opinion. Those are my thoughts. I believe that womanism is for all. I think feminism is for the few. Those are my thoughts. And I can delve deeper into those in another video. But those are my thoughts. You can share yours, but you're not changing my opinion on womanism being for all and feminism being for the few. Anyway, at least in founding, in foundational theory and practice, that's my beliefs. But I don't think that any of us should feel bad or shame ourselves for celebrating the massive success that Rihanna has had. I don't think we should. I think we should sit with ourselves and acknowledge why we want to celebrate it, right? Black women have felt so beaten down and continue to feel so beaten down by society that, damn it, yes. Yes, I'm going to celebrate. Yes, I'm going to celebrate when one of us achieves something that is not commonplace. Yes, I absolutely will. But at the same time, I do hope that we get to a space as a society, not only an American society, but a universal society where nobody feels the need to even want to be a billionaire or a millionaire because our needs are met always without having to amass such absurd amounts of wealth. The reason we all want more is because we don't have enough. Truthfully, we all want more because we don't have enough. Even when think about it. Even if you have a house, and by house, I just mean you have a place to live, right? Like you have a home. So even when you have housing, when you have food, when you have water, when you have all of your basic needs met, you still want more, especially in America. It's almost like your needs are never met. And that's only because you're being made to feel that way because, our society is constantly moving the goalpost. So just when you think you've got it, just when you think you've achieved it, just when you think you've done enough, the goalpost has moved a little bit further. There's a rent increase, inflation. It costs more for them chicken wings. Your tofu and went up $2. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's always something. So you got to start working for more again. And then you want to be a millionaire. Then you want to be a billionaire because you want to be able to never have to worry. But let me tell you something real quick. Even the millionaires and the billionaires be worried sometimes. Yeah. It's true. Even the millionaires and the billionaires be worried sometimes. Because unless you are truly the 1% of the 1%, You ain't got it. You don't got what you think you have. And that's a shame. That's a shame. That's what I want us to work on dismantling. And I'm never going to be sitting here talking to y'all or anybody and act like I have the answers. I just have the ideas. I have the thoughts. And I'm somebody that believes if you've been given the vision, if you've been given the thought, it means that you can achieve it. And a lot of us have been given the vision and the thought that we can exist in a society that doesn't participate in capitalism. And a lot of us have our own, ways of seeing that through. And I believe that there is a solution there. I don't think it's circumstance that so many of us have been inspired to want to strive for existing in a space and time where money is no object. And not in the way that we usually use that. Like, money is no object because everybody has enough money. No, money is no object. Do you understand me? Money is no object. It is not a thing. We don't do that anymore. It's not something we do anymore. We don't really do money. That's not how society functions anymore. We don't do that. And I'm not talking about, so because we do crypto. No, we don't do money. You're hungry? Here's some food. Need a house? Let's build you one. Right? Because that's what we do now. Money is no object. So, it's, it is one of those things, it is one of those things where, it's like, you could just say you like Rihanna, you don't care. For a minute, I kind of felt like that. Like, well, I like Rihanna. I don't give a fuck. Whatever. She billionaire. I'm here for it. Go sis. But I do care. No, I do care. I do care. I do care. I do care. About ethics. I do care about equity. And I absolutely can sit here and acknowledge that Rihanna is assisting in something that is dangerous and harmful to a lot of people that exist in not only her supply chain, but outside of it. And it is what it is. Like, it is what it is, Someone tweeted, Galdem tweeted, as Rihanna reaches billionaire status, we remind ourselves why black capitalism will never equate to black liberation. In an article written by Nonhala Makuyana, I hope I said that right. In an article written by them, Makuyana dives deep into why black liberation should not buy into representation politics. She highlights the example of Kamala Harris. Now, is Kamala Harris a black woman? Anyway, she highlights the example of Kamala Harris, noting that though Harris has faced extensive racist attacks, she hasn't challenged the system. Because Kamala was putting y'all in jail. Okay? Kamala was putting y'all in cuffs. And that's exactly why black capitalism is problematic. She explains, representation politics tells us that black people can be and do anything. In reality, only a handful of people are put in those positions, which upholds sus institutions, corporations, and the status quo of all while being racialized. It's true. If Rihanna looked like a different kind of Bayesian person, would she be Rihanna right now? No. We have this conversation all the time. Texturism, texturism, featureism, colorism. They all are working at hand here to benefit Rihanna. And she knows that. She knows that, which is why I'm like, yeah, Rihanna being a billionaire is really not a good thing. But, I mean, at least sis didn't continue to push out the things that she knows have benefited her. And she hasn't made those the standard through the branding of Fenty. Thank you, but, it didn't free us. We are going to have to continue to have these difficult conversations if we are going to progress and advance as a people, as a Black people. The Black collective mindset is going to have to shift from placing the blame and responsibility on the individual to win at rigged systems, right? It's time that we play another game now. And it's also time, I think, that we revisit the past. There's a reason why when we play by our own rules, those who are non-Black get very upset and do all they can in their power to destroy us. Central Park was Black Wall Street. It was a community of people. It was a society. Today, it's a park. What does that tell you? We've always thrived and survived by sharing. It really is innate within us. It really is our nurture and our nature. But a lot of work has been done to make us forget that. So we celebrate when the individual becomes a billionaire instead of working towards creating societies that don't need one of us to be a billionaire because we all have enough. We have to invest in working together a little bit more. We do. I said it before in my previous video. If someone threw a rent party right now, the timeline would make fun of them. That is an example of how the Black collective thought has shifted in just a few short decades. In the 60s, 70s, 50s, 40s, 30s, probably right up until like the 80s. No, just till the end of the 70s. If a Black person was like, hey, I can't make rent. Can y'all help me out? Let's do a fish fry. Let's do that. Let's do this. And posted that publicly. Put up flyers all over their community. People will come out and help them. Somebody did that same thing today. There would be people who would make fun of them. I'm not saying there wouldn't be people who would help them, but what I'm saying is there was a time where nobody would dare to make fun of that because that would be shameful on you and shameful to the community. How dare you laugh at the misfortune of yourself? Because every other Black person is a reflection of you. So how dare you laugh at that? There's nothing funny about that. There are things we laugh at today as a collective that we would have never found funny. And that's what I'm most interested in. Sure, Rihanna being a billionaire isn't the most feminist or womanist thing to be. But it happened, and it's happening. And more Black people and Black women will become millionaires and billionaires. That's fine. Whatever. What is it that we can do to start reinforcing our communities in such a way where we don't feel a need that any of us have to reach that kind of financial absurdity of wealth, like in hoarding of it, because we kind of have enough, right? we've been doing the work for a long time. I do think there was a point in time where we were succeeding greatly at doing the work, and then events happened to set us back tremendously. Like the crack epidemic, like World War II, like all the policies after World War II that split up the home. A lot of things started taking place mid and late 70s, early 80s that we have not recovered from, that changed and shifted our entire collective psyche. We are still recovering. We are deeply traumatized. And so I don't find it surprising that we want to celebrate when somebody makes it. Yeah, even at the expense of other people. It's not right. I don't want that to be the path that we have to take. I don't like that Rihanna had to exploit people to get where she is, but that's capitalism. Capitalism is not ethical. No matter how you slice it, being a capitalist is not ethical, nor is it sustainable. I do think at some point capitalism will fall. It's really not sustainable. It's already crumbling and falling apart. It has been for decades, but like the events of 2020 have really kind of exacerbated it and sped up that timeline. It's just not a sustainable nor ethical way of existing. I really hope this video has helped y'all think about some things, explore some things. Please share your thoughts down below. I really want to know what you guys think and feel about Rihanna being a billionaire and what that means for Black women, what that means for women in general, what that means for immigrants, Bayesian immigrants, what that means for you. Let me know your thoughts on capitalism. Let me know your thoughts on the existence of billionaires being a problem of a system. You know, wealth inequality is wealth inequality. And yeah, Rihanna is contributing to wealth inequality, but so is Jeff Bezos and so is Bill Gates. Okay. That's all I have for y'all today. I love y'all and great. Thank you for listening. That's all I have to say. I really appreciate y'all. I've been feeling very honored to be celebrating my voice in this way and sharing my opinions, and it means a lot to me that you all listen and engage in conversation with me. So thank you. That's today. This video was over an hour long, so I'm probably going to split it up into 2 parts. Yeah, I definitely am. Okay, love y'all.